Have you ever felt trapped? Like you're living someone else's life, ticking all the right boxes, but feeling completely empty inside? That was Alex's reality. A sleek, minimalist apartment that felt more like a showroom than a home. A high-paying job that slowly chipped away at his soul, one spreadsheet at a time. Expensive routines performed in solitude. He had all the markers of success, the tailored suit, the luxury car, the gourmet meals, but his reflection showed a man weary and unfulfilled, a king in a gilded cage. The city hummed with life, but for Alex it was just noise. The car, a symbol of freedom, was just another box, stuck in endless traffic. The food, exquisite and artfully plated, was tasteless when eaten alone. His life was a series of perfect, joyless moments. But sometimes, even in the quietest despair, a memory flickers. For Alex, these came as dreamlike flashes, fragments of a life he'd long forgotten, the raw power of a rugged coastline. The simple joy of hands covered in paint. The warmth of shared laughter around a crackling fire with people who felt like old friends, even though they were strangers. These weren't just dreams. They were echoes of a different self, a version of him that valued experience over possessions, connection over status. They were whispers of a world where richness wasn't measured in dollars but in moments. A world he desperately wanted to find again. These fleeting images became his secret rebellion, a silent promise to himself that this couldn't be all there was. The gilded cage was beautiful, but the door was still a door. And he was starting to remember how to find the key. The key appeared one rainy Tuesday, tucked away in a dusty box in the back of his closet. An old, leather-bound journal. Its pages were filled with the handwriting of a younger, more hopeful Alex, sketches of distant mountains, poems about the sea, and a single faded photograph of him, beaming, holding a paintbrush. It was a relic from a past he had buried under layers of ambition and responsibility. As he traced the faded ink, the whispers became a roar. The decision, once a distant fantasy, crystallized into a solid, unshakable plan. This was it. No more waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment was now. What followed was a methodical dismantling of a life he had so carefully constructed. The resignation email was sent, a simple two-line farewell to a career that had taken everything and given nothing back. The for sale signs went up, first on the apartment, then on the car. Each possession was sold or given away, each transaction a small act of liberation. He wasn't just shedding things. He was shedding a version of himself he no longer recognized. Finally, all that remained was a single, worn backpack, filled not with luxuries but with essentials. With a deep breath, he closed the door on his old life for the last time. His destination was a small, remote town nestled between rolling hills and a wild, untamed sea, the kind of place he used to sketch in his journal. The contrast was jarring. The city's relentless energy was replaced by a profound quiet, broken only by the cry of gulls and the distant chime of a town clock. Stepping off the bus, he was an anomaly, a stranger in a place where everyone knew everyone. The initial moments were a cocktail of fear and exhilaration. There was no safety net, no familiar routine to fall back on. He was completely, terrifyingly on his own, an outsider looking in, wondering if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The reality of his choice hit hard, and it hit fast. Freedom, he quickly learned, didn't pay the bills. The savings he'd carefully set aside dwindled with alarming speed. The romantic ideal of the starving artist was a lot less romantic when your stomach was actually empty. Doubt, a cold and persistent companion, whispered in his ear during the long, lonely nights. Had he been a fool to trade security for a dream? He took on any work he could find. Mending fences for a local farmer, washing dishes at the town's only diner, stocking shelves at the small grocery store. His hands, once accustomed to a keyboard, became calloused and sore. It was a humbling, grueling grind. But in the midst of the struggle, something else began to grow. He bought a cheap set of paints and a canvas. In a small rented room with peeling wallpaper, he started to paint again. His first attempts were clumsy, the colors muddy, the lines uncertain. It was frustrating. He was out of practice, his creative muscles atrophied from years of neglect. But he didn't stop. With each clumsy brushstroke, he was reclaiming a piece of himself. Slowly, painstakingly, the images in his head began to take shape on the canvas. The progress was incremental, almost invisible from one day to the next. but it was there. And he wasn't alone for long. The gruff farmer he worked for invited him for dinner, a simple meal of stew and fresh bread that tasted better than any gourmet dish he'd ever eaten. The woman who ran the diner started saving him leftover pastries, her knowing smiles a silent form of encouragement. He helped a neighbor fix a leaky roof and was paid with stories and a bottle of homemade wine. These weren't transactions, they were connections. He was no longer an outsider. He was becoming part of the town's fabric, weaving his own thread into the community. He was finding a sense of belonging he never knew in the city's anonymous crowds, a quiet grace in the daily grind. Months turned into a year. The struggle for money was still real, but it was no longer his focus. His focus was a large canvas that now dominated his small room. It was a landscape of the coastline he saw every day, but painted with the emotion of someone who had truly seen it. He poured all of his doubt, his struggle, his hope, and his newfound peace into that painting. It wasn't about creating a masterpiece for a gallery. It was about finishing something that was wholly, completely his. The day he applied the final brushstroke, a profound silence filled the room. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot, but it was honest. It was his story told in color and light. A few nights later, he unveiled the painting to his new friends, gathered in the warm, cluttered living room of the farmer's house. As they looked at the canvas, they didn't just see a painting of a coastline they all knew. They saw Alex's journey. They saw the heart of a man who had risked everything to find himself. And on Alex's face was a look of pure, unadulterated pride, a deep, glowing fulfillment he had never felt after closing $1 million deal. He wasn't receiving a bonus or a promotion. He was receiving something far more valuable: shared joy and genuine appreciation. The final scene isn't one of triumph in the traditional sense. There is no gallery opening, no sudden wealth. It's just Alex, sitting on his small porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and pink. He's no longer financially wealthy. His clothes are worn, his home is humble. But his eyes are clear, and a gentle, easy smile plays on his lips. He is at peace. He had traded a gilded cage for a world of infinite, beautiful, and sometimes difficult freedom. He had learned that richness isn't about what you own. It's about what you create, who you share it with, and the meaning you find along the way. He was finally truly rich. Thanks for watching.